Hello, hello.
Okay. Giving everybody a second to get on here. I'm going to share it. There we go. Okay, I think I have it shared to my page now too.
Great. I'm just going to check on my page and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, let me make sure.
Is it showing up on your page?
I think, let me just double check. And then we'll get started.
Yes.
Looks like we've got a couple viewers already.
We'll just give it a couple more minutes and we'll get started. But if you all have questions, please feel free to type them in the comments box.
Yep. Yep, it's showing up, so we are good there.
Shall we?
Yep, let's go ahead and get started.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to How to Live a Full Life with an Ostomy, sponsored by Hollister. I'm Tina from Own Your Crohn's, and I have with me.
I'm Amber from the Ostomy Diaries.
And we want to welcome you all to this Facebook Live today. We're going to talk a little bit about our journeys and, take any questions that you have, as well as answer some questions that we have for each other.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and get started here. We're going to share a little bit about ourselves. So Tina, if you want to go ahead and talk to us about what led up to your ostomy surgery, you can talk a little bit about your disease journey. Were you afraid of getting an ostomy in the beginning?
Sure. So before I get started on that, I just want to thank you all for joining us today, but I also want to just reiterate a couple of messages. This Facebook Live, as you know, has been sponsored by the ostomy company called Hollister Incorporated, and our testimonials are representative of our personal experiences. So our results and experiences are personal to us and not necessarily going to be the experience that you have. Everybody's an individual, everybody has different experiences, but we wanted to relay how we've sort of dealt with living with an ostomy and how we've come out of surgery and how we live day-to-day life.
Exactly. Again, our personal stories, so.
Exactly. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to ping us throughout this Facebook Live, and we're happy to answer them. Now, just to go back to Amber's question about what led up to my ostomy surgery, I'd say there was a lot that led up to it. I was very sick. I have Crohn's disease. I've had it for 14 years now. But about nearly 12 years ago, I started getting really, really sick. I went to Cancun for my 24th birthday, and I came back really sick with gastroenteritis. I was put on antibiotics, developed C. diff within a month or two, and just took like a nosedive south in terms of my health. At the time, I was told I had mild ulcerative colitis. It became severe really quickly. And I went from taking 5 ASA medications to prednisone to azathioprine to infliximab, and eventually I needed surgery. So that's sort of what led up to my journey. How about you, Amber? What led up to your ostomy surgery? You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I had some similar experiences in that I have Crohn's disease, and my body just became too weak to fight the inflammation from the disease, and my colon was thinning. I had tried a lot of different therapies like the infliximab. I did really well on that for 8 years, and I was basically in remission, but then it began to fail. They tried prednisone and different antibiotics, and then due to overexposure to antibiotics, I got the C. diff infection as well, and my body just was too weak. Surgery, it wasn't even an option anymore. I had to do it. So I had to choose to live. I was definitely afraid of getting an ostomy, but after praying about it a lot, I just decided I wanted to live, and I had my entire colon removed and received my ostomy. And that was in 2016. So.
Wow, girl, you've come a long way. Look at you. So what do you think might have held you back or prevented you from getting an ostomy? Were there any sort of aspects to, family life, or, just being a young woman? Like, what sort of led up to that? Like, did you have anything that held you back?
Yeah, I just believed a lot of misconceptions about ostomy bags. I thought, people were going to perceive me as being gross or think that I smelled bad. I had a family member, my uncle had a colostomy due to cancer, and he was really negative about it and didn't seek out help or support groups or anything. And so he never really accepted it. And so that was the only view of an ostomy I ever had. And I just thought, no one would ever love me or accept me or, be able to deal with that. And so I was afraid people were just going to react poorly. And that ended up not being the case at all. I found that so many people were supportive and understanding. And I really wish that I would have done the surgery sooner. If I had known, there's light at the end of the tunnel and everything, I would have definitely done it sooner and not let those insecurities hold me back. So, did you experience similar situations? I mean, were there things that were holding you back or preventing you from getting your ostomy before surgery?
Yeah, there were a lot of things. I think similar to what you were saying, like there was a lot of misconceptions, but I also had family members who had ileostomies as well, and they did not have such favorable opinions of it. My father, for instance, had Crohn's disease and colorectal cancer, and my aunt as well. My father here in New York, my aunt in India. And in my culture, this is looked down upon quite a bit. I think around the world, in a lot of cultures, many people can't get married, or they can't hold jobs. There's a lot of misunderstandings as to what life with an ostomy is like. And I think I got a lot of that. I think because of my family's prior experience with the ostomy, it was very difficult for them to accept that I, as a young woman, would need this for the rest of my life. And so I did get a lot of pressure to do everything and anything and everything, really, to avoid having ostomy surgery. And had I known how much better my life would have been with an ostomy at that point, I think I would have also gone forward with it much sooner. I think in general, as far as culture goes, and even American culture and different racial and ethnic minorities go, there's a lot of pressure to cure disease naturally. And so I was trying to do that, and my family really wanted me to do that. And a lot of our family friends thought that that would be the best way to go about this, because who wants to be on heavy duty long-term medications, or who wants to have a surgery that's irreversible? But here's the thing, for me, I learned waiting too long led to complications, led to multiple infections and abscesses, and had I had to do it again, I wish that I would have done it sooner, and that I would have tried medication much sooner as well, because surgery is permanent. But here's the thing, that surgery gave me my life back. So I am thankful for it every single day.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's what, that's why we're doing what we're doing. We want people to know that you can have a full life and that there's so much support out there, and it can change your life for the better, and it can be a positive thing.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that, Amber. I think, just going into perhaps like how my life has changed with an ostomy, and I want you to talk about that a little bit too, if you don't mind. It's definitely been a life-changing experience. Here I was thinking my life was going to end having an ostomy. That's what I was told. It was like the end of the world to get an ostomy. And the truth is, it gave me my life back. I think one of the questions that had come through on my social media accounts was about pros and cons. Do you want to talk a little bit, Amber, about how your ostomy might have altered your life and what some pros and cons are?
Sure. Getting an ostomy was a huge adjustment. I'm the first one to be out there and say, this is so positive all the time. But, you do have to realize at first it's a big life change. You're used to going to the bathroom a certain way your entire life, and then all of a sudden that changes. And there's so many products out there, which I'm so thankful for. I'm so thankful for all the different options on ostomy bags, but that was a little bit overwhelming at first. I remember going to the pouch supply store with my mom the very first time and just seeing rows and rows and rows of supplies and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what to use. I was misusing some products. So it was definitely a learning curve at first. And I had some skin issues and things going on like that with my skin psoriasis that I had to deal with and just learn how to put my equipment on. And, I had to decipher through all the information I'd been given and realize what products worked for me. But on the positive side, there's so many more positive things that it's done for my life. Number one, it's enabled me to be able to work full time. I'm a teacher. In my first year teaching, I actually had to take a leave of absence and wasn't able to finish the year. I was hospitalized so much, and now I work full time. My ostomy has helped me achieve remission, so I'm able to do that. I go hiking. You can go swimming and skiing, all those kinds of things that I was so worried that, an ostomy would hold me back or whatever, but I wasn't living my life before because I was so sick. So the positive is it gave me my life back, and I was able to actually live my life, whereas I wasn't before because I was hospitalized all the time or, a prisoner to my bathroom. So there's definitely some adjustments, but for me, it's been so much more positive. So, Tina, what are some of the pros and cons that you've experienced? What are, the good and the bad? Tell us all of it for you.
Sure. Absolutely. Thanks so much for sharing that, Amber. It's really hard to share some of this, but I think it's so important to get messages out to the completely changed with the ostomy, not just in saving my life, which is the biggest thing that it did for me, but I think it saved my life over and over again. So I had ulcerative colitis. That's what I was told initially. So I had, it's supposed to be a 3-step surgery, but I had a 4-stage surgery to create a J pouch. And what had happened is that J pouch was fashioned out of my small intestine. And it turned out that I actually had Crohn's. So that J pouch started creating something called fistulae into different areas of my body. And what was happening was I was going into septic shock repeatedly. So I was getting this whole body infection called sepsis. And what my ostomy had done for me at that point was they had diverted my J pouch so that I would go to the bathroom through my ostomy. They left my J pouch in there, but in that process, it helped to save my life. My body was not able to hold stool, period. It wasn't able to hold any bowel movements. So having an ostomy helped to divert that stool, helped for me to stay somewhat healthy during that time period until my doctors could figure out what to do with me. So I think having that ostomy helped me maintain weight. It helped me eat. It helped me just, live a normal life during that time. But now that I have a permanent ostomy and that J pouch has been removed, I also think that it's given me my life back in a lot of ways. I used to work on Wall Street. I had a very hectic career. I used to work a number of hours. Some weeks were 70, 80 hours a week, and it was an unsustainable career. But now, as a patient advocate, I'm able to get my voice out. I'm able to help other people destigmatize, this disease, as well as life-saving ostomy surgery around the world. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm also in school pursuing a master's in public health. So having an ostomy has allowed me to really pursue my dreams again, rather than, as Amber was saying, living in the hospital or just living anywhere near a toilet all the time.
Yeah.
It's really no way to live. For me, I was in diapers all the time. So this is much, much more preferable to me. Yes, there's a lot of products, and that's been overwhelming to me too. I've struggled a lot with leaks. I've struggled a lot with skin issues, and I understand there's some questions about that we're definitely going to get to. But as far as those go, like for me, those were trivial in comparison to the amount of life it gave back to me. Even if I had to change my bag every single day, I would still take the ostomy over the kind of life I was living or not living back then. So it was life altering in that respect. I've like Amber was saying, I've been able to partake in a lot of different activities, from going swimming, going skiing, going water skiing, all sorts of water sports, as well as I've done like axe throwing, rock climbing. Of course, I wear like a hernia support belt. I clear everything with my doctors before I do anything like that. But I've been able to live a fuller life, and I have been able to exercise and do yoga and different types of things. And I've worked with my physical therapist to figure out what works for me, what doesn't work for me, and how to sort of prevent a hernia by wearing a hernia belt, being really careful with the exercises that I do.
Yeah.
So I understand that an ostomy and having surgery isn't a cure-all for all of us, especially if we have Crohn's disease or some other kind of chronic ailment. But it has given me a lot of quality of life back, so I am very grateful for that.
Exactly. And like you said, the adjustments that you make, like having to change your bag, I was having to wear Depends or the feminine pads in my underwear when I was going to work because, with the urgency that came with my Crohn's disease, I didn't always know if I was going to make it to the bathroom. So, even changing my ostomy and, just making sure that when I do those extracurricular activities that I, have an ostomy to go kit with me and stuff like that. Those few little things are so worth it compared to the things I was dealing with when I was so sick with Crohn's disease.
That's a great point. I definitely carry around a little pouch that has extra supplies. For me, like I use a specific like one piece pouch, and I carry a ring with it. Anything that you need, like if you need paper towels, anything like that, especially if you're going to the beach or somewhere where you're going to sweat a lot, I always recommend bringing some extra paper towels, some extra supplies, just so that you can rush into the bathroom in the event of a leak. Take care of it right away.
Exactly. There's always a way to be prepared so that you can do the things that you love to do.
Exactly. 100% advocate for that. So Amber, I wanted to ask you, what do you wish you knew about getting an ostomy that wasn't necessarily shared with you before surgery?
Yeah. So I wish I had known that there was this whole community online and that I wasn't going to feel alone. That's how me and Tina got connected through a health conference and through our advocacy work. But there are so many people online who get it. So even if you don't know someone personally in your hometown or wherever you're from that has an ostomy, or you're just not ready to do that in person, there's so many people online through social media and these support groups on Facebook of people who understand and who have been through what you're going through. And then, you know, the other thing, I just really thought this was going to define me in a negative way, and it hasn't. I feel like it's enriched my life in so many positive ways. Number one, it's, you know, helped me be closer to God, which I'm so thankful for because spiritual health is so important. It's made me more appreciative for the good days and for good health. Whereas, you know, before I wasn't really as thankful for good health. So it's made me more appreciative, and just the fact that it doesn't keep me from doing the things I love to do. If you follow me on social media, you know I love to eat Taco Bell, so I get to do that now. Whereas before, I was lucky to be able to eat chicken noodle soup. And then, like I mentioned, just the fact that I wasn't living life before. And, you know, I had some really incredible nurses who told me, you know, if you get this surgery, you're not going to want to have it reversed because you're going to be so healthy. I didn't believe them. I wish that I would have known that, like, how much it was going to enrich my life and how much joy it would bring to my life. So, you know, what was that for you? What is the thing that you wish you would have known before ostomy surgery that might have been helpful to know?
I think it's very similar. I kind of wish that that my surgeon or maybe like a social worker or somebody had informed me about how much quality of life I would get back and about how much I might actually appreciate this. I think the assumption really is, and this is a misconception as well, is that the patient isn't going to actually like the ostomy, that they're going to want to have this reversed or turned into a J pouch or what have you. But the truth is, I actually ended up missing my ostomy when I was reversed. It turned into, and this is very personal, but I have to share this because it's just so important to me, is I went through this whole grieving period when my ostomy was reversed and I was given a J pouch. It was like my baby. I had come to take care of it like it was my own child. Attached to my skin, of course, but it was one of those things where I didn't realize that I would have so much separation anxiety from not having my stoma anymore and from not taking care of this and being able to view my intestine and be like, oh, I can do something to take care of you. You know what I mean? Like that, like these are inner body parts that we don't see. We try to eat clean, we try to hydrate, we try to take care of our bodies and exercise, but being able to see my intestine on the outside, it was like, oh, I can actually really take care of this thing. So it became like a little child to me. So I wish I had known like how like everybody just told me how awful this having a stoma would be. And I was actually floored that I had the entirely opposite experience.
Oh,
I
exactly.
wish I had known that it could actually be something I would grow to love.
Most of the things that I thought I was so afraid of or worried about ended up not even being true and were such a non-issue. So
Same here. Like, and then the other thing is like, I never thought I would travel internationally again. With my ostomy, I started traveling all over the US again. And then I went to Canada. I've traveled all over Europe again. And it's like, I've been able to set these small goals for myself to really come to own my ostomy, so to speak. And I think one of the things that I've been able to do is rekindle my friendships and work through a lot of things that I wasn't able to do before, like go to a lot of my friends' weddings or eat at events and stuff like that. And I feel like I can partake in life again with my ostomy.
Yeah. So Tina, real quick, we have a question for you over here. Why was your J pouch reversed or removed? Uday Korwar. I may have butchered that. They want to know. So maybe just briefly tell us, you had an ostomy, then a J pouch, right? So
Uday, thanks for your question. I appreciate you joining us from India. So the situation with me was I received a diagnosis of ulcerative colitis because I was told that the disease was only in my colon. There was no skip lesions that would indicate Crohn's. There was no granulomas, nothing of such. So I was told with such a severely inflamed colon that my diagnosis was UC. With that, I was advised to have J-pouch surgery because none of the medications were working, biologics, nothing. And I was about 85 pounds, which I believe is about 37, 38 kg, not even.
Wow.
I was really struggling, and I was being fed by a PICC line. So I was getting IV nutrition in my arm, and I really wasn't able to survive on my own. So at this time, I received a J-pouch. And what had happened over the years was over a few surgeries, I was reversed. I was given a temporary ostomy. I was reversed and given the J-pouch, and it was put into full-fledged action. And from day one, even before my takedown surgery with the J-pouch, I started having something called pouchitis. It became chronic, it became refractory. And what pouchitis is inflammation of the J-pouch. And what had happened was that no medication was able to control it. We tried antibiotics. We even went ahead and tried biologics again because my J-pouch began to fistulize. It began to burrow holes into my lady parts and give me sepsis. So at this time, I was told, okay, we need to divert your J-pouch, bring a stoma back out, and give you an ostomy again. And that actually alleviated a lot of my symptoms initially. And then my J-pouch began to fit without being connected, even without stool passing through. And that time we continued to try different biologics that were available. But it got so bad that I had 5 fistulae, and it was no way to really live at that time. So my J-pouch was excised over a course of several surgeries. So that was, that's not like usually like a normal procedure, but I do know that there are people who've had their J-pouches excised because they actually do have Crohn's disease and none of the medications work.
So was that a misdiagnosis in the beginning?
Yeah, it was a misdiagnosis. I presented completely as ulcerative colitis. So those are technicalities. I do actually have Crohn's disease that is being managed at this time. But as a result of that, I live with a permanent ostomy.
Right. So thank you for asking that. And hello to Alan from Mexico. We have people tuning in from other countries. That's awesome.
Yes.
So we will continue.
We have Andy, we have Brock, we have Harmon, Taylor. Thank you all for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you can, if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to leave them for us and we will get to them as soon as we can. But we wanted to go through a little bit more conversation about experiences that Amber and I have had to help us live a full life with an ostomy.
Yeah.
So Amber, I have a question for you. How did you rebuild your self-image and self-confidence after surgery?
Yeah. So, being so nervous that this was going to hold me back, I was determined to, achieve some goals of mine with my ostomy bag. So I started to just set goals for myself, one of which was running in a 5K race. I had never ran in a 5K before my whole life. And I thought, I want to do this. I want to show myself that I can do this with an ostomy. And so I ran in my very first 5K. I've done several, but I did my first one in February of 2017. And it's so funny because I saw my Facebook memories, February of 2016, I was hospitalized and in the surgery due to Crohn's disease. And then 1 year later, I had my ostomy and I was running in a 5K race. So doing things like that, when I would see, hey, I can do this and I can rock these goals and still live my life. and not be in the hospital, not be in the bathroom, that made me feel so good about myself. And it made me see my ostomy as positive. And, you know, I have to give my mom a shout out. She's here with me today. She was such a great cheerleader for me when I got home. She's like, when we look at this bag, we're going to look at this as something that saved your life. And so I just started celebrating life. I ran in 5K races. I started going hiking. And then when I started to accomplish those goals, I really started to see my ostomy as positive. And when I had those experiences, I wanted to share it and show other people that there's hope, and that, you know, an ostomy does not have to be a last option, doom and gloom thing for a patient. It can be something that gives you a quality of life and helps you be the best version of yourself. And that's really what it did for me. And that's why I started sharing. So that really helped me when I started, you know, being able to do things, because I wasn't living before. I was sick all the time. So when I was able to, you know, feel good about myself, that's when I saw my ostomy as positive. Was there something that really helped you rebuild your self-image and boost your confidence while having an ostomy right after surgery?
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned this, because for me, like, I think you mentioned your mom. I think my mom, and at the time, Anand was my boyfriend. And I think I wanted to come out of those surgeries living for them. And so I started like setting up little goals, like every surgery that I had, and I had like over 20 over all these years. I kind of felt like, you know what, I have to do something to reinvent myself. I have to bring myself back. I can't be down in the dumps all the time or be a Debbie Downer all the time to my family. They've stood by my side. They've really been there for me. So shout out to my mom and Anand. So one of the things that I like to do to reinvent myself after surgery was I'd cut my hair differently, or I'd buy like a few new outfits, like reinvent my wardrobe.
Yeah.
Or like I would buy different color eyeliners that I'd never worn before, like green and purple and red, and just like shake things up just so that I could feel a little bit more alive again, that I could feel
Love that.
again. So it was like one of those things that I did to challenge myself. And I was talking about earlier about how I started to partake in life again, and how I started to go to my friends' weddings, because this is a time when you're in your 20s and 30s. A lot of your friends are getting married. They're having bachelor or bachelorette parties or bridal showers or baby showers, all sorts of stuff going on. And you feel like a bad friend for not being a part of it. Because
Exactly. And then you start to feel guilty when
Exactly. So I started going. I started partying with them in Miami and Vegas and New York City. And I started living my life again. And I have to tell you, being able to wear a bandage dress with an ostomy and people looking at you like you're attractive makes you feel really alive again.
Exactly.
So that was
going to have to wear baggy t-shirts all the time. I'm wearing t-shirts. Ostomies are lifesavers. But I told my mom, I was like, I'm just going to have to wear baggy clothes all the time. So I'm so glad you mentioned that dress, because you can wear dresses, you can wear tighter clothes, you can wear whatever you want with an ostomy.
Tighter clothes actually seem to work better for me because I wear like an ostomy wrap. I use Ostomy Secrets. I know everybody else like does different things, like the stealth belt or vanilla blush or whatever, but I wear the wrap. And sometimes if I'm wearing a tight dress, I'll wear Spanx. And that holds my ostomy in place, and I feel comfortable that it's not showing. And here's the thing. People don't know you have an ostomy unless they're looking for it, unless you tell them you do.
Exactly.
That's the other thing. This is something that's really in our heads because we know what we have, right? So I think that's a piece of it.
I thought it was going to be like this big scarlet letter A.
I know.
That I would walk in a room and everyone would know. And
no, instead, we're supporting ostomy awareness with our stickers today.
The Hollister Ostomy Awareness sticker right here. So it is on me today. But
no scarlet letter A, but we have ostomy awareness stickers.
Or if you are a recent ostomate and you're not ready to share yet, then you don't have to. People are not going to know. And I wear a cami, like the tank top thing under some of my tighter clothes just to help flatten it out if I want to. And then, I do want to mention, Tina, my wedding dress was very form-fitting around my abdomen, and you couldn't see it at all. It did not keep me from getting the wedding dress of my dreams. And then tell them a little bit about what you wore at your wedding.
So I wore a sari, and you can actually see it on my blog page. There's a blog post called Love Knows No Disability, where I talk about interabled relationships. I wore a sari. At the time I had a J pouch, but I have since worn saris with my ostomy bag. It's no problem. I actually just wear it up a little bit higher than I normally would to cover the ostomy bag. And I usually pin it into my ostomy wrap to keep it all together. So I've had no issues wearing ethnic clothing or any sort of Indian garb, whether it's saris or different kinds of langas or churidars. I've never had an issue wearing any of those clothes. In fact, it's been kind of fun to try new things and challenge myself. I see a question here from Uday again about being advised against running or sprinting after you had started chemo. I agree. Like running, sprinting, certain activities, if your doctor does not agree that you're ready for them, or if they think they're going to cause trauma to your stoma, definitely be careful. But I do know, and Amber, as you know, runs and sprints. I do know of a lot of ostomates who do run. For me specifically, I've been advised not to bike, but that's more because I've had chronic rectal wounds rather than an ostomy. I think this is very individualized, and your doctors can definitely guide you as to what you can and can't do. So definitely keep that in mind. To check with your surgeons, your doctors about what you can and can't do as well.
Yeah, if you're ever not sure, just go ahead and ask your healthcare provider, and they can guide you through that.
Exactly.
And they might be able to help you find, accommodations. Like, you said you wear certain ostomy belts when you're doing activities. So they can probably help guide you in that as well.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to say hello. Hello, Brock. Hello, Mandy. She said she watches my YouTube. Thank you.
There's Sarah. There's Harmon. Thank you all for joining us. Allison, Rebecca. Thank you all for joining us. So we're just going to get back a little bit more into our conversation because we have a bunch of questions that were asked prior to our chat. So we wanted to get to those as well. So Amber, I wanted to ask you, how did you get into advocating for life-saving ostomy surgery?
Yeah.
Why is opening up about your ostomy so important?
Yeah, so obviously my friends and people from my hometown were asking questions, so I would post updates and stuff like that so that they would know. And it was really healing for me to share. It helped me kind of cope with it, to share and then people be so supportive. And then I wanted to share what God had done for me, and leading me to the right surgeon and everything. I never wanted anyone to be laying in a hospital bed considering to choose life or to choose death over life, because that's the whole push this year. Ostomies are lifesavers, and it would be so sad for someone to not choose life because they feel alone or like they're going to be isolated or have to suffer in silence, So I never wanted anyone to feel that way. And if me opening up about and being vulnerable and talking about something that maybe is a little difficult to talk about helps encourage someone else, that just warms my heart. And I think that, speaking out about that, it can help change other people's lives, and it encourages me when people message me and talk to me about how something I did helped them, and I made tons of friends that also have ostomy, so I just wanted to help encourage people. Why did you start? You have a blog. If you haven't checked out Tina's blog, check it out at Own Your Crohn's. I'm more YouTube, and Tina is excellent at blogs. You've got got to check it out. She has a lot of great information out there. What got you into doing that? What prompted that for you?
Thank you so much, Amber. You're so sweet. I think I had been living in silence and in shame for so long. It was something that, as I mentioned earlier, this is something that's considered very taboo in my culture and in many cultures around the world. Having a bowel disease, one, and then having ostomy surgery, having this pouch outside on your abdomen into which you defecate into, it's really something that's quite stigmatized around the world. I felt like a wallflower at many social events. I felt like I was an outsider at so many events. People did not want to speak to me. I wanted to create change. And I wanted people to realize that I'm a person despite my illnesses, despite having an ostomy, despite having a fistula or several, because that's also another very stigmatized thing around the world, having this sort of tunnel borrow from one organ to the other, which can happen with Crohn's and a number of other conditions. So I really wanted to change things. I had never seen really people of many different ethnicities talk about this. And being in the U.S. as a model minority, you're so sort of expected to keep up appearances. Excuse me. And I was like, why can't I own this? Why can't I just be me? And why does this have to be a flaw? Why can't it be my strength?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to show people that they don't have to live in silence, that they can love themselves and they can be just who they want to be and who they are, uh,
Yeah,
with an ostomy, with Crohn's disease, with fistulizing disease, whatever that they might have, they should be able to own that and be themselves. And that's
exactly.
why I really advocate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, next question that I wanted to ask you, how does it feel to begin getting back into normal life after surgery, going to work or school? Were you afraid that the people around you would notice it, or if you had a leak, what were your insecurities about that, just getting back into normal life?
Absolutely. And that's a fantastic question. And I know I was asked that online as well. So getting back into normal everyday life, going to work, going to school, it's not easy because you're wondering, are you going to leak, especially when this is new?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, like the first few months are a little bit tricky because you're like, am I going to leak? Am I not? Honestly, a lot of those fears were unfounded for me. I was anxious in the beginning, but later on down the line, I was able to work just fine with an ostomy. I was able to go to school just fine with an ostomy. I did ask for accommodations. So, under the American Disabilities Act, there are accommodations for people with chronic illnesses as well as disabilities. So I did get accommodations both from my graduate school and at the time when I was working on Wall Street. So right now I have those accommodations in graduate school. I have them in place. I've never really used them much because I haven't needed them, but I want them in place for peace of mind. But honestly, once I got into the rhythm of things, these things really didn't matter so much. I started wearing a lot of high-waisted pants so that I would feel comfortable. One of the accommodations that I have is using the bathroom more often, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not an issue. And I eat a little bit more often than the average person. Instead of 3 meals a day, I might eat like 5 or 6 times a day,
Me too.
all frequent meals. So those things are allowed, and that's basically how I've been doing things.
Yeah.
How about you, Amber? Was the adjustment back to normal life tough, or how did you fare?
Yeah, I thought people were going to focus on my bag and not see me. And I couldn't have been more wrong. When I meet someone new, they never even know that I have an ostomy. And, there's things that you can do to help, like you said, give yourself peace of mind. I always carry an ostomy to go kit. I have a little bag that I keep in my desk at work that has a change of ostomy supplies in it so that I'm always prepared. So that helped me feel confident about going back to school and being a teacher. And, I had I had some conversations with my principal and coworkers, and I just made him aware that, I may have to call someone in to watch my class so that I can go to the bathroom. And they've been so kind about it and accommodating. And like you said, if you are in school, I want to encourage you to go to the disability services office at your university or college.
Absolutely.
And just make sure, even if you're not in an active flare or anything, just make sure they're aware of your condition. My doctor wrote me a note for that, just so, as a precaution. And that'll help you feel more confident about going to school and not have to worry, oh, what if something happens? But just getting back in normal life, I had to just put myself out there. And at first, this is a topic I know that we've both been asked a ton. I was afraid to start dating because I was single when I first caught my ostomy bag. And so,
That's the number one question, dating
yeah,
life.
I was a single 25-year-old girl. And so I just had to start going on some dates, talking to people. And it helped me just to be open and transparent about my ostomy bag. And, there's no right or wrong way to go about that. Everyone shares in their own way. But for me, it was better for me to have those conversations like, hey, I have Crohn's. This is what I've been through. And you don't have to do that from day one.
Absolutely.
But and then, God led me to Joel, and he's so understanding. Joel actually, his grandmother has an ostomy bag, so he knew what an ostomy was before I did. But
What a gold mine, girl.
I know, God worked that out. So you just have to treat yourself as normal. Take the extra precautions that you need. I packed an extra change of clothes with me. I kept that in my car when I first went back to work. Just, put those few things in place so that you don't have to worry, and then you'll be able to enjoy your life and the things that you're doing to just be normal. So, we get asked that about dating so much. Do you want to share a little bit about, you and your husband and your journey with it?
Sure. So I've mentioned my husband on him a little bit throughout this Facebook Live, but he's been a really big support to me. And when I was first diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, I think within a few months I had just started dating him. I think I waited probably about a month before I told him. So it was several dates in, but when I was like, this guy's a keeper, I think I need to tell him.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this going to be a deal breaker? Because I can't really have you leave me 2 or 3 or 5 years down the line. Like, I need you to tell me sooner rather than later if this is a deal breaker for you.
Yeah.
Because it does run in my family and it is an issue. And I made sure that I was honest with him about that.
Yeah.
For him, he was like, you know what? It's really hard to find somebody that you really connect with, that you really truly care about. And, it's okay. I'll deal with it. And I'm not sure he knew what he was signing up for, but with all the surgeries I've had. But, to be honest with you, it has definitely been a roller coaster ride. It hasn't been easy for him. I know that firsthand. But here's the thing. What I've found is that it's definitely brought our relationship closer to be able to talk about these things more openly. I find that if you hide these things or if you conceal these things for too long, there's a distrust or a mistrust that gets created from the foundation of a relationship. So I always tell people in the support groups I've run and, friends and family who are going through some of these issues, I will tell them, tell them early on, definitely not the first or second date, but tell them early on when you feel comfortable, when you feel like this person is somebody I can have a long-term relationship with. I would tell them about the diagnosis or the ostomy bag. You definitely don't want them to find out accidentally or by surprise. So that's the one thing that I definitely say. And I will just add this one last point. When I had the temporary stoma between the J pouch surgeries, what I found was I did so well with the ostomy that when it came time to having a permanent ostomy done, it was kind of a no-brainer. Whether that was for my husband or for me. At that point, we had already been married, and he was like, look, this doesn't matter to me because I've already seen you live well with it. So if this means that you'll get quality of life back, so be it.
Yeah.
So I started investing in all sorts of ostomy wraps at that point. They have all sorts of Foxy wraps and all sorts of things that, work well to cover the ostomy bag, for the intimate moments. So that's something I want to put out there, that it is not a complete loss to think that you have an ostomy or think that you have a chronic illness and that you can't get married. I'm living proof, and I know Amber is living proof that you can be attractive, that you can get married, that you can have fulfilling relationships and friendships with a chronic illness and with
Exactly. And I just want to encourage everyone watching as well that, if someone treats you poorly because of your ostomy or your chronic illness, that just speaks to their character. And you want to be with someone who is kind, because if it wasn't your ostomy bag, it would have been something else, because things happen in life. No one is immune to something happening to their health. So, I just want to encourage everyone that you deserve to be loved and accepted, and someone to, appreciate you and love you despite that, because, obviously it was out of my control that I had Crohn's disease, and you want to be with someone who's kind, because life is going to throw you curveballs. And, if it wasn't the ostomy, it would be something else. So just recognize your worth and know that you're worthy, and that there are kind people out there who will be understanding.
Absolutely. And I know that there's a lot of cultural issues around this too, but I truly firmly believe that if you step out of sort of your bubble, of your comfort zone, put yourself out there a little bit, people do come to respect you, even for your quote unquote flaws. So it's something that I've learned over the years, something that I was so ashamed about has become one of my greatest strengths. And I want to encourage you all to think of yourself as worthy, just like Amber said, as beautiful, and as somebody who's willing to put yourself out there to get the best life possible.
Right.
If we don't put ourselves out there, we won't be able to receive in return. So that's something that I've learned in my advocacy journey, and also with, all my health concerns and my ostomy.
Yeah. So for those of you still with us, feel free to leave questions in the comments, and we're going to get to those. We've got a few more minutes and just a couple more things we want to get to, but definitely feel free to keep asking questions. We are reading your comments, and we're so excited to have all of you here with us. I wanted to ask you, Tina, how has living with an ostomy changed your perspective on life? Do you have any words of wisdom that you want to give to other ostomates or people awaiting ostomy surgery that might have to have this life-saving surgery?
Absolutely. I will say one thing. After all my surgeries, there's just one quotation that always comes to mind. And it's by the Sufi mystic Rumi. The wound is where the light enters you. And that's how I truly feel. I feel like my ostomy is where the light has truly entered me. I feel like that it has given me so much gratitude, that it's given me so much purpose, so much meaning in life. And it's really made me appreciate everything about life so much more. I know we've been talking a lot about gratitude. There's this Urdu word that I often use in my blog, shukr. And what it means is that I'm just so grateful that my entire body is filled with gratitude. And I think that's what the ostomy really did for me. So as far as perspective goes, I celebrate every day of my life, because I have a life now, and so that's really what I think.
Girl.
As far as perspective goes, you tell us, how has the ostomy given you perspective?
Like I said earlier, it's helped me be more appreciative and more thankful, and closer to God, and closer to Joel and my family. And, Psalm 139 says you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And I don't believe that anyone is a mistake. I don't believe that you're less than because of a chronic illness or an ostomy bag. So, my words of wisdom to someone awaiting surgery would just be, know that you're not a mistake and something that is out of your control. that doesn't lessen your worth as a human being, and you still have value. So I've really, it took me time to believe that, to look in the mirror and be happy with what I saw. And, I want to encourage you, if you're struggling with that, it takes time, but you can find peace and you can get there. Start loving the person you see in the mirror and not being afraid or ashamed of that.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. It's something that I did for a long time, is look at my scars in the mirror and just start to own them. Really start to say, this is me, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
Exactly. Scars tell stories. So
yes. So I know we have a bunch of questions, and I wanted to make sure we get to them. We did get to a bunch throughout, our conversation. But someone did ask if I have blockages often. That is something that was a concern. So a blockage meaning that food or particles of food get stuck in your intestines, because a lot of us don't necessarily have a large intestine. So we only have the small intestine for food to travel through and come out into the ostomy bag. So I have had a couple of blockages, and I would say that they were early on after surgery. Myself, I haven't really had an issue with blockages since. I'd say within the first year, I did have a couple of blockages. One time I ate peanuts and didn't chew them properly. I was
they're so tempting.
I ended up in the ER. I was vomiting like crazy, and I had a nasogastric tube put down from my nose into my stomach. It was torture. I've never eaten peanuts since. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So there are certain
clear of nuts.
Yeah, I'm pretty careful now after that. I think one time I accidentally also ate like undercooked cauliflower, and that was a blockage, but that passed on its own. But I've definitely had these issues with partial bowel obstructions that pass. Sometimes when it's a complete bowel obstruction, you do need to go to the hospital and have that NG tube placed. But the key is to really talk to your doctor, to really talk to your dietitians or nutritionists about what you can and can't eat. I think the gassier the foods, the more fibrous the foods, the nuts, like sort of the harder things to digest, are things to really avoid. I eat a lot of, I still eat fiber, but I end up mashing and pureeing a lot of food because that goes down easier for me. Everybody's different. Some people do well with salads. Some people get blockages with salads. So you really have to do this whole trial and error thing to see what works for you.
And I would recommend keeping a food journal. You know, if there's something that doesn't digest with you, even just keep a note in your phone and be like, this is a no-no, especially in the beginning, because, you're learning so much and you can get very confused. So I would write it down and chew all your food really well. That's my biggest tip for that. So that you're not swallowing the big particles of those fibrous foods and stuff like that. So if you write it down and steer clear from it, like peanuts and almonds and stuff. I just can't do that at all.
Absolutely. So I think things like peanut butter or almond butter are definitely much easier to go down. So that's what I do now.
Yeah.
When I'm tempted to have some nuts.
Yeah.
Lesson learned. There was this question early on about skin irritation and how to sort of manage that with a stoma. Do you want to take a stab at that, Amber? Amber has some great videos on her YouTube channel about all sorts of ostomy related issues. I highly recommend taking a look because she goes over everything.
Right. So one of my biggest tips for skin issues is keeping your appliance dry. Even after I shower or go swimming, I try to pat it dry, or if I have access to a hair dryer, keeping it dry. Because obviously wet, dark skin can cause some issues. I've had great success with stoma powders and things like that if it's red and irritated. I do have skin psoriasis, so I had to see a dermatologist, and they formulated a special ointment put specifically for me. But Hollister has a number gosh, we'll comment the number after our video where you can call and ask about different products and questions where that's concerned. And obviously, if you're having an issue, contact your healthcare provider or your doctor. But keeping it dry is a huge one for me. If you're sweating. And then the stoma powders, I just, sprinkled a little bit of that on, and it really helped. So, I don't want to give too much advice because they definitely need to contact their doctor if they're having a persistent issue.
Absolutely. Definitely contact the stoma nurse, the WOCNs, to help with this issue. But I've used powders. I've also used the barrier wipes to help keep the powder in place, like locked and sealed in. In the summer, when things have a hard time staying dry and it's more humid out, I have had to use the miconazole powder. Again, that's something that your surgeon or a stoma nurse can prescribe, because I have developed fungal rashes and that sort of thing. Just to sort of wrap up, because we have like another minute, I know there's been some questions about foreign governments and how to sort of get this qualified as a disability, ostomies in general. Something that we have done in this country with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation and the United Ostomy Association, and I can speak further to the people asking these questions, please feel free to reach out, because I have lobbied on Capitol Hill about this, is sharing personal stories with government executives, getting those appointments in your national government, sharing these stories, telling them how much this is becoming a growing problem and how many lives this devastates and how much more awareness this needs. They need the personal angle to this as much as possible. Please feel free to reach out. I can go into greater detail about this with you.
Exactly. And if you have more questions, your email is tina@ownyourcrohns.com. Ostomy Diaries @gmail.com. Check out my YouTube and socials. Check out Tina's socials at Own Your Crohn's and her blog. We'll comment more information. Continue to share this video even after we cut off.
We just want to help people. We want to help destigmatize and reduce the misconceptions and fears around having ostomy surgery. If you have any questions about product-related issues or products in general, you can reach out to Hollister at 1-888-808-7456. That's a US and Canada toll-free number.
Yes.
Or else, if you're outside of the US and Canada, you can reach the manufacturer websites and contact via the website. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
This was such a pleasure.
Everyone for tuning in. Go check out Hollister on social media. Get your free awareness sticker.
Yes, we are so happy that you could join us. Thank you again.
Yeah.
And please continue to reach out. Please help us advocate and reduce the stigma around life-saving ostomy surgery. Thank you all.
Thank you. Talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.